Welcome back to the Milestone Moment, where we take top producing agents, ask them about their story, how they got into real estate, and a bit about their business. Today, we have industry legend Phillip Rodocker with the Rodocker Group and John L. Scott. Phil, welcome to the show. Couldn't be more excited to have you.
Thanks, Adrian. Thanks for inviting me in.
Oh, you're the best. So tell us, I know you've maybe a while back, but how did you get into the business and kind of what brought you to real estate? Let's learn your background a bit.
Let's see. I've been doing it now for 37 years, so almost 4 decades. So I got to go back a long way to give you an answer to that question. But I was actually going to school for engineering, for mechanical engineering for Boeing. I did that, and a friend of mine from high school was down there looking for like surplus. He wanted to get a desk, and I asked him what he was doing, and he opened up a log home building company, right? Sure. And so I was like, wow, how cool is that? And he goes, hey, why don't you come work for me? And he said something to me that was very profound, that changed my thinking, that shifted me completely. And that is, he goes, I said, I can't do it because I work for Boeing. I got a job here, and I security and, and everything, medical, whatever I want here at Boeing. And he goes, look, I'm just starting out. I can't give you everything. I'll give you $1 more an hour. He goes, but remember something about security, it's between your ears.
Okay.
He says, every big business started as a small business.
Sure.
And he goes, I'm a small business wanting to be a big business. But as long as you are secure with yourself, nothing else is really going to matter. So either give it a shot, not. I was young. I think I was 21, 22 at the time.
Wow.
So I said, why not? Let's go. And him and I took it on. And we started building log homes all over the areas. So they trained me over in Montana, over in Hamilton and Bitterroot Valley, how to build and construct log homes, how they do the chinking, how they do the structure, how they lay the logs, all that. Then I was selling them up on Hartstein Island, Anderson Island, up in the Cascades, all over the place I was selling them. Wow. That was back in the late 80s, right? Okay. That was 88?
Sure.
88, yeah. And so I did that for a while. And then he got bought out by the Japanese. They came over and they wanted to start building log restaurants.
Oh my God.
And so they did a consignment with him to go to Japan for 2 years and construct log restaurants in Japan. And so then I'm out of work. And then another gentleman that we know in the industry, his name was Ken, came to me and he goes, you're just doing this real estate thing. Have you ever thought about talking to Jim and Saul over in Kent?
Sure.
And I said, sure. And I met Saul and the rest was history.
Oh, wow.
I said, I could do this.
Okay. Oh
and I just took it on and been doing it ever since.
So obviously transitioned to more residential, regular housing, nothing log home wise.
Yep, and I stayed with the same company, same management the entire time, still with the same company, same basic management for almost 40 years.
Oh my God.
Never changed brokerages.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I learned something new today.
There you go, yeah.
That is amazing. So I guess obviously there's no question that you have a loyalty to them and you've grown in so many ways within that organization. What is it that you find special about John L. Scott?
The management, and I think the thing that really resonated with me when I went there is it felt more like a family-based company.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
When I saw Lennox and I saw his father and I saw his grandfather, I saw a generational business that was committed to our community, and they wanted the best for the people around them. They had a slogan back then. It was called Quality Street, because they wanted the agents that worked with them to be quality, and they only wanted to give a quality service and take care of the client in a quality manner. And Quality Street was a really big part of their business back in the 90s. And I said, that's what I want. That word quality meant something to me. And I said, I want to work with a company that uses that is their slogan. So I took it on, and it just felt like a family. And now, 40 years forward, right? Today, my daughter's working with me, and I'm bringing this into the second generation. And hopefully, if it works out, she'll bring it to the next generation, and we'll be doing the exact same thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been, again, almost 40 years, so you've seen so many different markets. What do you think is so special about how you run your business that has allowed you to endure through those different markets and those different segments?
Well, I've seen 4 economic downturns in real estate. I saw the Boeing when everybody was moving out of the area. I went from that to the dot-com bust.
Yeah.
Then we went into the mortgage meltdown. That was the next economic crisis we went into. Then the next one we went into was COVID.
Yeah.
And we've been going through these cycles of set, reset cycles. And something I learned early on, and I probably learned this back in college and life, I got a mechanical background.
Yeah.
So you have to be really good at what you do when you're dealing with mechanics, right? When you're trying to get something or work on something, you got to make sure you're not skipping any steps and you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Because there's lives on the line. If you're working on a car and you don't do the brakes right, someone can be injured.
Right.
Okay, as an example.
Yeah.
If you're working on a plane and a bolt's not in right and an engine falls off, there's issues.
Yeah.
Right? And so I carry this specific way of doing business into my real estate business. And then Abraham Lincoln, one of our great presidents of the United States, he said something to his staff, and he said, whatever you are, just be a good one.
Yeah.
Okay? That's what he said.
Love that.
And so you sit there and you go and you say, okay, whatever you are, be a good one. What is he trying to say? He's saying to be good at whatever your calling is, right? And whatever's good, but don't spread yourself out.
Okay.
Don't try to do everything.
Okay.
Try to figure out the one thing that you're good at and just compound that, compound that, and the results will come.
Okay.
If you're compounding at what you're good at and you keep doing that and doing that. And that's kind of what I did. So when I first started real estate, I didn't really know back in the day what to do. We didn't have computers. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have anything.
You probably had to reinvent yourself many times over. Yep.
Many times. Yeah, I was, what'd they say, BC, before calculators, right? So it's like, before any of this, we had to do everything longhand,
That's
right?
amazing.
We didn't have GPS. We had to study the roads. We had to do all these crazy things.
No MLS, you had a book, right?
You had a book, yeah. We didn't have any computer programming back then. So I just figured, what could I do and what could I be really good at? And I started working with for sale by owners. But when I picked that lane, I didn't do expireds, cancel, everything else that you can do. I just got really focused on that. Okay. And I said, how can I be really good at this? How can I do this? And I did that for 7 years, that one thing, for 7 years.
For sale by
just
owners.
one thing for 7 years.
Wow.
And then I moved from that into building a database because I figured in the long run I was going to need a database. So then I started doing first-time homebuyer classes.
Sure.
Because all I was trying to do was build a base of people that were at an entry level that were going to grow up through the years, and we could nurture them
every 5 to 7 years.
Every 5 to 7 years, and we could do this. And an amazing thing that came from doing that, I did that for 13 years.
Okay.
One thing.
Yeah.
Classes.
Okay.
Every Saturday I did a class for 13 solid years. And what came from it is I not only were working with the first-time home buyers, but then I started working with their parents because they didn't have anybody to work with. Yeah. Then I started working with their friends and their extended family. And so by virtue of doing one thing, I got 4 different lead sources out of one. I didn't even know it was going to happen. But it's just being committed to that one thing, right? Being committed to that one thing, I think, is it. And I moved away from that, and I started working down at the auctions, right? Sure. Because the market crashed. Okay. So I got really good at flip properties, investment properties. I worked with 21 investors, and I was finding them properties and turning them over. I flipped probably over 200 houses in that time frame. Wow. Yeah. I did that for about 7 years. Okay. And then we moved everything back, kind of melded it all back into the database, and now I work with database management, and I get a lot of referrals coming in from the database now.
Picking up the phone call and having Cassie kind of run through all the different people reaching back out. And
it's kind of the other way around. My phone just rings because of everything I set up in advance for the last 4 decades, because everybody goes, oh, you make it look easy, Phil. Like my partner, you were talking to him earlier, he goes, the guy could sit down with me for 2 hours and not feel stressed out. Right. Because I'm not worried about tomorrow, because I put all this time in, 40 years in, 37 years in, to build this business, to have it bring this
and take
residual
care of
back
people in a
today.
way that they want to just continue to work with you. That's that framework. Okay.
Yeah.
And it sounds like I've got a pretty good sense, but for a newer agent, what's some advice you'd give to somebody that's just getting going? Other than get on your team.
Yeah, you come work with me. There you go. Yeah. No, I work with agents. I've got a few on my team. I've been doing this for a long time. Yeah. If the agent was brand new today, if it was me today, I wish somebody, but I already had this in my mind, but I wish somebody would have sat down and just put a mechanical process together. Oh, okay. Okay? Yeah. Like, here's a day timer. Here's how many appointments you have to go on a week. Yep. Okay? And if you go on this many appointments a week, the law of averages say you're going to do this many transactions. Yep. Okay? Work those numbers, right? And a lot of trainers go all the way back to how many calls you have to make. I don't think the calling is important. I think it's face-to-face with people that it's important, because that's where the decisions are made. Yep. Okay? Because they can say, oh, call 1,000 people, but you do that and it goes nowhere because you're not looking at the end goal of what? Having the appointments. Right. So if somebody told me if you went on 2 appointments a day, that would be 10 a week in a 5-day period. And in that 10-day cycle, or that 10-day appointment cycle, 3 of those people are going to wind up listing their house.
Yeah.
As long as I know that, all I have to do is duplicate that.
Yeah.
Then it becomes what? Predictable and duplicatable. And as long as you have a predictable and duplicatable business, you're always going to have business.
Sure.
Who taught us that? Ray Kroc, McDonald's.
There you go.
Predictable and duplicatable.
Right.
He was the guy that figured out if you do a hamburger the same way every single time and made it predictable for people that come buy it.
Yep.
That's it.
That's the process. That's
it.
awesome. Now, 2025, an interesting year. 2026 is, starting now that we've had some uncertainty we've talked about. Anything that you're excited about in your business this year, or anything that you started last year that you're continuing into this year?
I think it's the growth of the team. I think it's them finding their way. Because I'm really teaching them how to be specialists.
Right.
Like when you talk to Vasily, he was expressing his specialty. What's his specialty? Working with investors.
Right.
He made that very clear. Because in the beginning I said, if somebody would have told me to be a specialist and not a generalist in real estate, like an MD, what's an MD get paid? Okay, what's a brain surgeon get paid?
Sure. Yeah.
They're both doctors.
Right.
But which one's getting paid more for their service?
Yep.
Because they specialize that skill, they become more valuable. So with Vasily, if he's working with investors as an example, he's honing and specializing that skill. He's getting better and better and better at it, so he can do more in less time because he's specializing. And the more I have people on my team that specialize in certain areas, the odds are they're gonna grow exponentially.
Love that.
And we all win from that.
Yeah, that's that whole, like I was saying, the shiny object syndrome. People jump around, but you're like, just hone in on, be specialized, and really be directed in that way. That's awesome.
Just like on the lending side, right? You have to be a specialist when you're taking loan applications. You got to be able to talk to people and analyze their credit and do all these, but you're not in the back processing.
Yep.
Somebody else processes. You help get them from here to there, and then you help that person again. You're very specialized in what you do.
Team that supports me on all the underwriting side and the paperwork and all that. Exactly right. Yeah. So Phil, the premise of the show, the milestone moment, the moment that it all kind of either changed for you in real estate or maybe you reinvented yourself. What would be your milestone moment in real estate?
When I knew it was the time?
When you knew it was all for you, and or maybe you had to reinvent yourself and redo it, but when you knew real estate was for you. And that might be last week. Okay.
This is it. Yeah, it was this morning when I woke up. This is really going to work. Finally going to work.
Right, yeah.
I think it was the time when, like I was talking about earlier, when I met Jim and Saul.
Okay, yeah.
And they introduced me to some people, right? People that aren't around, like Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar. Yeah. So I got to see them live.
Okay.
They introduced me to good philosophy, right? They
Mindset,
had me
mentorship.
Go to Tony Robbins, things you don't hear about, Napoleon Hill.
Okay.
These are all the foundational people that created the cells, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the wisdom of the past is kind of lost today with all the AI and technology and all the different things I think are going to happen. Go backwards in time and look at the people that were really, really successful back in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, and the people that had the message back then of hope, right? And read some of their literature, and you're going to find there's lots of similarities to what we deal with today, what they dealt with back then. And so I'm always encouraging agents to read books.
Okay.
Or even listen to it on a Audible, right? So they get the message of what our forefathers taught us about real estate, right? And if people get that, they're going to be in a lot better place.
I love it. Anything that you have advice for any clients or buyers or sellers out there, anything on the current environment that you want to pass on to anybody potentially watching?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting time. There's, we'll call months on the market, right? How many months of inventory do we have on the market? There's what we call a buyer's market, seller's market, and neutral market. Yeah. Always know what market you're in when you're doing whatever you're trying to do.
Love that.
Okay? So buyer's market is when there's an abundance of inventory and not as many purchases because of the economic conditions that we're in, interest rates. Maybe it's job, maybe it's whatever it is. there's opportunity, right?
Sure.
Seller's market, when there's a very few amount of houses on the market, like during COVID, everybody was shelter in place.
Right.
Interest rates went at 3.99.
Right.
What happened to the prices?
And pushed up. Yep.
2-year period, we got a 30% increase in the values of properties in 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Who caused that to happen? The buyers that were in the seller's market. They didn't have a lot of choices.
Right.
Right. So just really understand what market you're in, and if the timing's right, then you move on it.
I love that.
Yeah, there's need to buy people, and then there's want to buy. The people that need to buy, right, for whatever reason, maybe their size of their family's growing, something's happening, they relocated in the area.
Yeah.
They have to be in whatever market's here, right? But the want to buy people could be a little bit more selective about the way they approach the market.
I love that.
And that'd be the advice I give.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Well, Phil, you've been a fantastic guest. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me in.
I appreciate you.
I hope there was something in there you guys used.
Oh, it was great. Thanks again.
Okay.
Love it.